Hello. Today I will be finally featuring the 0.60 Shimakaze build that I have decided on. Now, this match in particular is pretty nasty because they have a Taiho on the enemy team and they also have 5 DDs including 2 Fletchers and a Gearing. So not exactly the optimal matchmaking by any means. In this game I actually decide to make a bit of an exception, RPF located of course. Usually I tend to go right for the capture points, but in this game, first of all, they have so many US DDs, second of all, we also have so many DDs, and unfortunately I spawned with the Gearing on this side, but the Gearing still isn't moving. So I would have to go alone into a cap where I can face anything from 1 to 3 USDDs, not to mention there might be carrier influence as well, and of course USDDs deal far better with carrier influence because they have defensive AA, which you don't have. So ultimately I decide, nope, there's way too much of a risk to pushing into A first now. I'm gonna see if they have people trying to flank around this side. On this map it's pretty common for battleships and such to try to flank around the left side of the map. Now, as you might notice regarding my build, I have a bit more HP, I run survivability expert still. I run RPF myself as well. I think it's extremely important to have on DDs with good concealment. That includes Shimakaze, Gearing and Z52. And of course concealment expert should be self-explanatory by this point. And something interesting is that I have switched from my, you see, my RPF pointed toward over there, and he smoked up instantly. I think he smoked up preemptively because, well, his RPF pointed at me, my RPF pointed at him, and he saw planes coming, so he realized that if he got plane spotted he might get wrecked. Anyway, more on that later. Now my point is, I've actually switched to the 12 km torps and I'm running them without torpedo acceleration. The reason for this change from the F3s, which I really loved, is RPF. RPF has made cruisers a lot quicker on using radar. There's so many times where I will get randomly RPF spotted then radared right after, or just avoiding enemy DDs is significantly more difficult. So I've taken these 12 km torps to be able to, from a bit further distance, be able to launch these torps. And as before, if you launch them in a widespread like I do here, well, they can still be extremely devastating. And if they catch someone mid-turn, as for example that Hindenburg, then he has no time to actually avoid it. I popped my smoke to see if I could perhaps get some fire started on this Montana, since he ate a torp on the bow, which is of course guaranteed flooding. I'm hoping that one of the spotter planes or fighter planes or whatever that these people are running would be able to spot him. But the Montana most likely runs stealth build, so good job to him. That's of course my recommended Montana build. If he didn't run it, I could burn him to death. You notice, by the way, my RPF is pointing hard to the left. So I know there's the DD attempting to either flank my smoke or flank our carrier. So you need to keep that in mind. I'm also keeping it in mind at all times. You see RPF is pointing there. He's somewhere on the other side of that. So that's something I need to keep in mind. I want to torp, but I also don't want to get caught if it's, for example, a Gearing or something that's trying to push me. Montana, I think the Montana is about to... You see, he's in Montana, I think he's starting to turn. He got hit very hard, so that's usually when a battleship gets hit very hard, they tend to turn away. You see, he's starting to turn away now. So you get some more flexibility. I actually switched to the Friedrich der Große there to shoot those torps, and you get some more flexibility when it comes to target switching. With the F3s, you're pretty constrained to launching at whatever target is the closest because you don't have the range to go for anything else. With these 12 kms, you once again get the option to choose targets further away. Now, considering how constrained you are when it comes to distance and such because of RPF, I actually really like this option again. It makes it a bit more relaxing to play it. I mean, I'm pinging, of course, I'm pinging H1, telling there's a DD there. First I ping G1, then F1, you see I keep pinging them, and our carrier actually reacts to it and sends fighters there. The reason why this is important is, of course, oh, the torps are sent to the free, the Grosse managed to catch him off, so that's some additional damage. Like these torps, they aren't that much slower than their freeze. They are slower, yes, but in this current meta, the trade-off is very much worth it, because the radar is just such a huge issue. I've gotten randomly killed because a Des Moines was running RPF, and his RPF switched from a target that was about 10 km away to randomly switch to pointing to me because I got closer to the target than the other guy. So he instantly hit radar on that moment because, well, based on RPF, he knew that I was within his radar range. I got radared and I got melted, and that was so frustrating. So ever since then, I've been starting to run 12 km torps. Now you notice in the fighter planes, because I pinged that Shimakaze based on RPF, my Taiho sent planes there, and they spotted the Shimakaze, and now the Zao is there to hunt him down and kill him. So ultimately, might have saved my carrier's life there. Might have saved the Yamato who was sailing back there. You never really know with these things, but RPF is just a very powerful tool if you can afford to go for it. You have to keep in mind it's still a 4-point investment, and not every single DD can afford it. For example, the Habarovs, it just isn't worth it because your concealment isn't low enough to actually allow you to ambush other DDs, and you don't really need RPF to avoid enemy DDs because if it comes to a fight you can straight up take them on. Shima, however, can't really take them on because it lacks the firepower to do so, and especially with these 12 km torps you don't have as much close combat potential as you would with F3 torps, so you want to use RPF to avoid them. Now this guy hits a bunch of torps, I get some fires using my guns, of course. Worth noting is that Shimakaze that I pinged, who got now is being spotted and being killed, he's complaining about bots. I assume he's actually talking about cheaters, because he gets very upset that he's spotted down here. And that's of course the sheer power of radio location finder, or radio position finder, whatever you want to call it. It makes flanking moves like he did extremely hard to pull off if there's even one RPF user who's willing to communicate with the team. Luckily for my team, I was the one who was the RPF user, and I was more than happy to communicate and let my carrier know about him. Carrier actually paid attention to chat and went to spotted him. Zao paid attention to what was happening and went there to kill him. Now I used my smoke as long as possible to deal some additional damage to his Kurfürst. I actually didn't mind if I take some hits because I don't run, of course, only Last Stand, I also run Adrenaline Rush. So the reload that you lose because you're running these 12 km torps, if you do end up taking damage, well, when Adrenaline Rage or Rush kicks in, well, your reload suddenly is back to what it was if you had F3 torps. Zao finished off the Shimakaze, by the way. I notice he's going about reporting him, and he's very mad, very upset. I assume he thinks there's some sort of cheating involved, and that's why the reason why he was spotted and hunted down was because of some cheats. But ultimately, of course, it was just my RPF spotting him and a bit of team play, which admittedly is fairly rare in random battles, but still, its impact cannot be denied. Anyway, Grosse Kurfürst is being smoked up. I don't know if it's by a Fletcher or a Kagero, since those are two of the DDs left. But I of course launch my huge widespread torp volleys in there, and when you launch this many torps, well, you're bound to get some hits in there, and I finish off the Kurfürst and kill him. RPF still points into the smoke, and of course the cap is still being capped, so I know there's still a DD sitting in there. And considering we're kind of steamrolling this game, I might as well push up and see what's going on back there. This late in the game, I don't mind fighting these DDs because, well, even if they do take me on and kill me, I will still be able to get a significant amount of damage in on them, and it's even in random battles, it's very hard for them to actually manage to lose this game. I would be impressed if my team managed to lose this game, even if I went dying. RPF still pointing inside the cap. I'm of course RPF located myself, so I have to keep in mind that anyone I face will probably have his guns pointed my way as well. The more fast-firing guns of the Shima actually synergize quite well with this new Adrenaline Rush thing, because of course you get basic firing training kind of through Adrenaline Rush as well. So you end up spamming quite a lot of shells in this ship when you get really low HP, which is quite amusing, because you kind of turn into a gunboat the more damage you take. Kagero, oh whoops, some jerkiness here. Land 5 shells on him, that should be some good damage. Oh, and the Fletcher, they're both here. But I can get behind the smoke and get into cover. But actually some random torps from the gearing that he sent that way catch him off guard and the game ends. So 223k damage, only 2 kills. I could have probably gotten more, but there was also more impact going on behind the scenes that you might not have, that might not show up on the scoreboard. For example, RPF spotting the Shimakaze and getting him killed and preventing his entire flanking maneuver. Because the flank I had in the start, he had some similar ideas, except he took it to the more extremes, whereas as soon as I saw RPF, I played it much safer. And that's going to be a bit of a skill that you need to learn as a DD player, that when you are RPF located, any moves you make might be told to the enemy team, and that's something you must keep in mind, because he disregarded the fact that he got RPF located and he still bravely pushed on, and well, you saw exactly what happened to him. Plain spotted and hunted down by Za. Not a nice fate at all. Base XP wise, only 2.2k, but considering I only got defended 1 cap, I didn't get any caps, that's still pretty nice, especially against this many USDDs and carrier as well. Looking at the stats wise, we can see of course it was only a 10-minute 22-second game, so breaking well over 200k damage in a 10-minute game is always satisfying. Not too much fire or flooding, but still a pretty healthy 22k damage with the main guns, but a pretty short game that simply shows the strength of this build, and of course how well RPF synergizes with a DD that has a good stealth. Anyway, let's move on to my recommended build. Right, starting off, modules, I use of course the Type 93 Mod 3 ones now, not the F3s anymore. These torpedoes have the same detectability as the F3s, which is 1.9 km. They are 9 knots slower, but they have 4 km more range, and they deal more damage per torp as well. So there are some definitive trade-offs going on here, and of course you lose some reload speed, which is significant. I recommend the premium smoke for the additional charge and the reduced cooldown, and if you can afford it, the premium repair. Main armaments mod 1, aiming systems mod 1, torpedo reload, these are of course still your bread and butter. Propulsion mod, so you don't glide out of smoke. A rudder shift, so you get it very low so you can actually dodge those knife fight torps. And stealth finally. Captain perks wise, preventive maintenance, the only tier 1 perk, adrenaline rush and last stand, survivability expert and torpedo armament expertise, RPF and concealment expert. Now if you have to take them in order, preventive maintenance followed by last stand, followed by torpedo reload. Last stand isn't that good at lower tiers because it scales per ship tier as it says in the description, so get torpedo armament first, then get concealment expertise, and by the time you have enough points at this point, now you can start thinking about getting survivability expert, follow that up by RPF, and finally get adrenaline rush with the last 2 points. The synergy of this build is actually quite good, and honestly, I found that this build works pretty much on any Japanese DD, so you can use this build while leveling pretty comfortably, I would say. Anyway, that was my Shimakaze commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it.